Did you do a second round?
All right, I think we got it. I believe we're live. Let's see here. Technical difficulties. There we go. It looks good. Double check. All right, we're live. All right, thanks for tuning in. Sorry about that. You gotta love live broadcasts. We are here to talk social media in basketball recruiting. This is Clint Hordeman. I'm Vince Hordeman. We're Select Basketball, and today we are going to go over how social media has started to have a real impact in college basketball recruiting. And it's one of those things, whether you like it or not, it's part of it now, and it's here to stay. So we have taken the approach of let's embrace it, and let's set up some things that players can do to help themselves and have some success. Essentially, in this case, a way to maximize their exposure and give themselves the best chance to be seen, and you really use this as a tool. And I will say this, as we do with everything, it's just a tool, and all of this goes for nothing if you're not good at basketball. This all comes down to college recruiting comes down to, are you good at basketball? So we're going to start with that. But assuming that you are talented enough to play at the college level, we're going to go through a process here that you can use in order to really make sure that you're doing the most with your social media. All right, so there's three things that we're going to cover here over the next few minutes, and we're going to dive into each one of them. But before we do, if you could help us out and hit subscribe to our YouTube channel, that really helps us out, and we would be much, much, much appreciative of you if you could do that. So diving in, the three things that you can do to help yourself with college basketball recruiting. The first one is really understanding what is your goal. What is the whole purpose of having a social media account, and what are you trying to do with it? Now, in this case, obviously, we're talking about the goal being helping your college recruiting, but you can use social media for a lot of different things. It can be to help you get employment, obviously out in the world. I'm a marketing person myself, so I understand the power of marketing, using this to help you with employment. You can be using it as possibly if you want to be a role model. So if you are an older student at your school and you want to be a role model to those younger kids, this is a great way to do that because they're probably on social media as well. Or if you want to be a spokesperson or ambassador to your school, representing it. So before we dive in there, it's really important to have a goal, because this is going to drive the type of content. When I say content, the type of posts or tweets or pictures or images, videos, whatever you're using it for, it's going to drive that type of content to help you achieve your goal. So maybe you've got some examples that you can talk about, or that coaches have told you about, as far as using social media and having a goal or purpose that you've seen as a success in the past.
Well, I just think that no matter what, if a college coach is recruiting you, if they've heard about you, someone recommends you, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go and check out whatever platforms, social media platforms that you're on, to kind of dive into finding information about, maybe what you do in your free time, what you're about, and, interests you may have, just kind of get in there and get a feel for you. And that's probably going to happen before they ever make a phone call to you. And that goes for an employer. I know, as an employer of some various, people that work with us, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some investigative work on that end, just to see, hey, are these guys putting on there things that I feel like are where we have common ground? What are they different? Is something positive? Is it negative? All those things. So I've seen a lot of, I mentioned this earlier when we were discussing this, I know a lot of people that think that know how important it is. Social media isn't going to get you a scholarship, but it can cost you a scholarship. Yeah. So you want to be smart with the content that you're putting on. Vince is going to cover a lot of that. But it's just a way for another piece of the recruiting puzzle, whether, again, that's for college athletics, whether it's for a job, whether it's for just whatever the case may be, whether you like it or not. If you ask a girl out and her parents hear, who this person is, they're going to go on there and check you out. So it is an important tool for everybody.
Yeah, it's so ingrained in society now that you have to pay attention to it. And having a goal is really going to help you decide whether or not you should post that picture or that video or not. And then part of it too is trying to decide what is your goal as far as do you want followers? Do you want people to engage with you and ask you questions? Do you want coaches to be able to reach out and have a direct line of contact because maybe they don't have your phone number, but they saw you play and they found you on Instagram or Twitter or somewhere and said, oh, I need to reach out to this person. Do you want to use that as a channel to get through? So think about that. What is your goal? What is it you want people to do? And that drives into the next one, which is who is your audience? And what, like we just talked about, whether with the coaches or if it is anyone else, social media is out there, especially if you don't have a private account. If you want people to find you, which is usually the goal for marketing, is how can people find you? So you're not setting up a private account. So who is it you're targeting? And that could be college coaches. It might be fans or, students at your school. It could be just be your friends, or again, it could be employers that you're seeking employment with. And college coaches are looking at this and they're going to search you whether you like that or not. So this is a way to be prepared and understand who you're targeting and why you need to go and need to understand who is going to be watching. I say, and you've said this before, think about whom that person is.
Yes.
Imagine them in your head. And one thing that I've said is you talk about with your players, give me your top 10 schools, right? Where would you like to go play? Give me your dream schools. And then let's talk about some realistic ones. Well, chances are those coaches in schools and assistant coaches especially are on social media. Well, if you want to start figuring out who your target is, go look them up, see what they're posting about. And you're going to find there's a whole range. If you're talking about, College of Idaho, they're talking about legacy. If you talk about University of Texas, Shaka's talking about he loves his players. So you can really start to format your language and understand if it's you, and we'll talk about that in a second, but who your audience really is and what you're doing, is it appropriate for who they are?
I think that, again, there's a lot of information out there, and I think that if you have a way of understanding how to find it, can be a great asset to put you in a great position. And not, he'll talk a little bit about being genuine, but not trying to fake it, but to kind of do even more research on your end on what they're referring to. Maybe do some readings, find some articles in addition to the social media stuff. But no question, to genuinely know who you're targeting does have a big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is when you know who your audience is, you also can learn where they're at. I know and I'm assuming that we're talking to mostly parents right now that will hopefully be passing this information along to their daughters and their sons that are interested. But this might be some players as well. But understand where your audience is mostly going to be at. If you are targeting college coaches, even though you may love Instagram or TikTok, chances are they're on Twitter.
Correct.
And that is just a fact. That's where coaches hang out. They're probably looking at Instagram. They probably have other accounts on other platforms, but they're going to be most active on Twitter because for whatever reason, that just seems to suit them more. And it works better for what college coaches want to do. So keep in mind, choosing your audience isn't just about understanding what your audience is looking for and how they may talk, their language, but also where they're at. If you're looking for an employer, they might be on LinkedIn, right? Which is a totally different animal. So know who you're targeting and try to understand where they're at. And that's going to be a big help for you. And then the number 3 thing, this is the third thing we talk about, and this is maybe the most important item of all, is you've got to be yourself. You've got to be genuine. Do not try to fake who you are or try to pretend that you're somebody that you're not. It always fails. Coaches are very smart. Anybody that's looking for this stuff is very smart. They're going to figure this stuff out. So you've got to be genuine. Be yourself. Identify and know your strengths, but it's okay to know your weaknesses as well. Understand your personality. This is where you really get to have your own sort of tilt on things. There's a headline that comes out and everybody sees the headline, but you can put your own spin on it and you can really use your personality to show who you are. If you might be a funny person, you might be a serious person, you might be an analytical person, but whoever it is, you can really use that. I know coaches want to see who you are as well.
I think 2 of the biggest things is, one is, this is just a piece of the puzzle. So if you're putting something on there that is fake or not genuine, a coach is, if they really are serious about recruiting you, they're going to make 2 more phone calls and figure out whether or not that was true or false, for one. And then the biggest thing is that, and I've talked to a lot of coaches recently because they're starting to coach their teams right now. And if they're fortunate enough in these crazy times to get some games. What they're, especially their freshmen and sophomores, they're looking for players they can trust. And building that trust starts early. When and what I mean by trust is that they know that you're going to be, make the right play at the right time, that they can trust you to make the rotation at the right time, that they know they can trust that you're going to be to the weight room on time or in class or whatever. That trust, building that trust is what gets you playing time as a young player. And so you can start early with that by putting things that genuinely are about you, that talk about who you are, what you're doing. And I think that is a great way to, again, start early and prove that you can be trustworthy. Because again, I promise you, they are going to ask questions. They're going to ask them to you, and they're going to ask them to the people around you. And if they find out you're a fraud, it's going to be an immediate turnoff. And at that point in time, they're going to have to decide, like, can I fix this, or is this something that's going to be a permanent problem?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't be fake. We're going to talk about some things not to do, some of the biggest mistakes that we see. But before we do that, we have had some questions come in that are probably going to be valuable, because the power of one person's asking it, but a lot of people are thinking it. So we're going to answer some questions that have come up about social media right now. And just remember the process. Make sure you know your goals. Make sure you know who your target audience is, and then really identify what your personality is. Okay, so some of the questions that come up. We had one question come in talking about, if I email a coach, should I be promoting my social media channels as well? What is your take, and what would you think the take of college coaches would be based on what they've told you?
And again, going back to what you're referring to, I think that they're going, if they are genuinely interested, they're going to hunt you down. Putting your social media on there is going to make their life a little bit easier, so they can just point and click. And also, if your goals are in line and you've done those three things, then it's going to be a really nice resume of where you've been and up to where you're at right now, what you're into. Obviously, probably will have a lot of things regarding the basketball, but just your life, and that's a good thing, because you said this perfectly earlier. They're not just recruiting you, athlete A, the player. They're recruiting that player's family. They're recruiting that player's likes, dislikes. They're recruiting all those quirks. And I know this for a fact, that all college coaches, if they're genuinely recruiting you, are looking for content. Okay. So, right now is hunting season. If they see that you went hunting and we're having a blast with your family, that's content for them to have a great discussion with you, to expand on, because they want to get to know you. They want to get to essentially you're their family for those 4 or 5 years that you're in college. So again, it's not bad to put on there really quality content, as long as it's smart. But I think that that makes it easier for them to get there. So I do think it's not a bad idea to put that on email.
And it goes back to your goals, right?
Correct.
It goes back, if your social media channels line up with what your goals are, and then it'd be appropriate to put it along with it. Just, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's how you can keep up with me.
I mean, obviously, if it's a post about something that you wouldn't want your grandma to see, then don't put it on there. And if you want to get recruited, you probably should take it off. So, I think that you nailed it on the head. Just keep it in line with what your goals are, and it's a good message to have, a good thing to have in there.
Okay. Another question that came in was from a parent that's had players in our program before. Both of his sons went on to play in college, and his question was more about tone and style, specifically posting about, hey, I just received an offer from whatever school. And the question was, do coaches appreciate if you're posting, this was my 5th offer, this is my 6th offer, as opposed to just, I received another offer?
It's a fantastic question that I get asked a lot. And I think one of the things is you don't want to come off braggadocious, and you don't want to come off like you're just trying to stockpile offers, right? You don't like, oh, it's just another offer that came in. Because I do think that actually turns coaches off. And it almost makes them feel like they're average, like it wasn't special that they offered that player a special opportunity. It is good to have, if you're getting an offer, to want to say thank you, but also it does bring another sense of leverage. It also shows that you're in demand from other programs, other coaches. So, but there, and Vince can speak better on this than I can, as kind of our guru for this. But um, you don't want it to come off like you want it to come out like special, and it's better to maybe have someone else promote it or whatever to get it out there. You do want it to be meaningful and say thank you, but maybe you can lean on some better ways that you've seen to get that information out there, because it is important. And to be fair to the player also, one of the first questions I get when coaches call me and talk about, hey, I'm calling about such and such, what other offers does he have? So it's a fair question, and it's a fair piece of information to put out there. But I think there's definitely right and wrong ways, or just best and better ways of putting it on there.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to who you are. So if your personality is one that's aggressive and maybe is okay with it, I don't know that stacking numbers is good. You really have to think about what you post before you post it. I mean, read it again. Look at the image, look around the image, look behind it. What are you seeing? Look at the video, because sometimes there's some subtle things. And, if a coach is trying to decide between you and somebody else, they're going to start nitpicking. And that's just human nature. So be very careful with it. I think that if you happen to be playing for an organization, whether it's a club or a high school that really has a support network behind them and has their social media of their own, they might be able to post something on your behalf that says, hey, so-and-so has received another offer from wherever. And now if you were to repost it, whether it's a repost or a retweet or whatever method or whatever platform you're on, now it's not coming directly from you, and that can shield that a little bit, but still get the information out there. But it really has to line up with, is that your personality? You cannot get away from that. That is important.
I think it goes from more of a congratulatory type of thing more than oh, look at me type of deal.
Yeah, definitely too. I think you want to be, you have to consider too the offer itself and what that really means. It's not just if a school offers you, it's not just them saying, hey, here's a scholarship offer. They put a lot of time into deciding that. Right. And there was a lot of other people that would love to be in your position. So I would always say lean towards humble, and thank them for their consideration, thank them for their trust. Again, a scholarship isn't just come to school and play for us. It is trust. It is, I'm essentially, as a coach, I'm putting my career on the line because I believe in you. That's a lot of trust.
Right.
Thankful, be humble. You're going to go and be great. Social media should be social. It's a chance to get out there and kind of put yourself out there, but just do it in a way that when you think about it, doesn't come off in a braggadocious type of way. I don't think anybody wants that. I think everybody wants to have a team player. And so that's important. Let's see. We talked a little bit about the social media platforms. Where should I go? Like I said, I think coaches are pretty much on all platforms. I know that, we've traveled enough with these guys and watched them on their phones and see them in the stands. We know they're on pretty much everything, but the most engaging one is definitely Twitter. They will definitely get on there, be active, retweet stuff. So they're definitely looking on that one. But if you're an Instagram user, that works too. I'm not saying you need to go create something specifically for this, but they're all very similar. You'll learn the nuances of them. And I would get familiar with at least Twitter and Instagram if you're going to start using them. How often should I post? Yeah, that one's... There's no magic number. There's no secret sauce to this one. The magic number, I think, is, first of all, it depends on you, and it depends on your goal and your target and your personality and how much time you're willing to commit to this. And you'll start to get a feel. The right amount is enough to stay relevant, but not so much that you're overloading people. And we all have seen that person that you look them up and they never have anything. And there's nothing wrong with that, except I can't learn anything about you. And then there's the people that if you look and across the top of your phone is 27 stories, that you're like, there's no way I'm going through all this. So you got to find a mix. But as far as what I should post, was always the follow-up question. Well, what should I post? I think it should be some sort of ratio that you should only post something about yourself 1 out of about every 5 or 6 posts, whatever that might be. Because it's okay to say something about yourself, as long as you're also throwing around congratulations, you're throwing around good jobs, interesting, events that may be happening that affect you or the people around you. So don't make it all about you. Social, right, implies more than one person. So if it's all about you, you've lost it, and people will tune you out. And don't look at those likes. Your friends are going to like every one of your posts. That's fine. That doesn't mean anything, though.
Yeah.
What you want is good, valuable, engaging, and overall, an account that does a lot of things that support your goals. So that's what I would say. Again, you just have to play around with it as an individual and figure out what works for you and what seems to be getting the job done. And that's going to take a while. So those are some of the questions we get. Obviously we would field other questions if anybody had any, but I think we have to also point out some things you shouldn't be doing. And these are just, you said it earlier, social media has never gotten a player a scholarship, but it has definitely cost a player a scholarship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but you do need to be careful with it. And I think a couple of things that I see is, one, when things become trendy, so whether it's a fad or a dance or whatever, things, there can be low involvement, just fun things, and then there can be really important things that are going on. But when these things trend, the thing that I see is people start posting about them, but they don't really understand the issue.
Yeah.
They saw their buddy did it, or they saw a bunch of people did it, and then I need to do it too. Well, if you don't understand what you're posting about, do not post it. Again, think twice, read about it, and ask yourself, if somebody asked me a question about this and I had to speak intelligently about it, could I do that?
Sure.
Right. And that would eliminate a lot of this stuff. So things like back when planking was a thing, right? And the floss was a thing, and you little kids were doing that. Oh, whatever. It's not a big deal. But when there's a real issue, don't start talking about it unless you've educated yourself on the topic, because that is when you will get yourself into trouble.
No question.
And then I think the other thing, and this is another one you said earlier, and this goes back to our man, Drew Church, who said this a long time ago, which is never post anything that you wouldn't want to show your grandma.
What's funny is that those of you that know me, I'm not really on social media, but I get a lot of, it's amazing because I know there's a gazillion messages that go out there about the players that we've had, about the people that are around us, coaches, this and that. But I only get two types of messages, Vince. Either somebody did something awesome, something that is noteworthy and that, that wow, to where I'm going, wow. Because I tell the people around me, if you see something like that, send it to me. Or it's something that is totally embarrassing, totally ridiculous, totally fake, or just totally negative, where it's like, you need to be aware, just because if a coach asks you, you better be aware that such and such said this last night or did this last night. Obviously, the top one, the first one I mentioned, wonderful. But I mean, again, if it's coming to me and either we're going, oh my gosh, or you're the butt of a joke, that's a bad post by any platform.
Yeah.
And again, going back, I do think this is a platform. It is something where if you have a great highlight film, if you've got a great game, something happens spectacular, it's a place to get that out there to the public in the right way. So it can be a wonderful thing to get your name out there, get more eyeballs on you, whatever, if it's done the right way.
Yeah. Add some value to it, but don't go so far with it. If you have a great picture and the big, fit pics, you have a fit pic where you're on the top of a ridge of a mountain or something, and it's great. If you're not a deep person, don't post a deep comment, but add something to it. Hey, this was taken at this place, and this is why it means something to me, because when I was young, my family and I used to go hiking here, and whatever the case may be, that's great. Add that personality to it. It's really good, and it can add to it. There's a lot of good stuff out there. It doesn't have to be about yourself. You don't have to carry, take a photographer with you at all times. Just grab something interesting, read, be educated on different things that are going on. Know what's going on at your school. Know what's going on with your team. Know what's going on with your friends. Just throw a shout out to a teacher every now and then and thank them for helping you with that English assignment or whatever, but be grateful and show some gratitude. And then you can post about yourself and everything's going to be good. This is use it to your advantage. It is here to stay. Make sure that you're doing everything you can with it in the right way. I think that's the message I have.
Bottom line. And I think that one of the thoughts I had is take these things to heart that Vince just went over. If you've got a young player that has, goals, sit down and talk to, because again, we know it's mostly parents that are watching this. This is a great way to get them dialed and going in the right direction right from the get-go, right? You don't want to have to make that comeback. Start it off strong and in the right way, and then it's taken off in the right direction and used for the right way.
Yep. All right. We're going to have more of these videos coming soon. Make sure that you subscribe so that you get notified when we're ready to go with a new one. If you have ideas and there's topics you'd like to hear about, anything related to college basketball recruiting, chances are he's seen it, done it, had a conversation about it at some point. And if not, it's a great, again, we talk about touch points. It's a great reason for us to reach out to our network just to talk to them and see what's going on. So if you have something you'd love to see some more information about that we can dig in for you, let us know. Go to selectbasketballusa.com. Our emails are on there. Vince@idahoselect.org, Clint@idahoselect.org. We will be happy to do some more research. Appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.